You see, in today's world, we are surrounded by constant noise, notifications, emails, social media, the expectations of others. We've been taught that being busy, being constantly connected, is a sign of success. So when we're suddenly left alone without all that noise, we don't know what to do. It's like we're standing in a room full of mirrors and all we can see is ourselves. No filters, no distractions, and that can be unsettling. But what if I told you that this discomfort, this unease, is actually pointing you towards something incredibly valuable? What if the very thing you're avoiding is the key to unlocking a deeper sense of peace and happiness in your life? When we avoid being alone, we are, in a way, running from ourselves. We might be afraid of facing our own thoughts, our own emotions. Maybe we've convinced ourselves that our worth is tied to how much we're doing or how much approval we're getting from others. But here's the truth. If you can't enjoy your own company, how can you truly expect others? Think about it for a moment. How often do we seek validation from the outside world, hoping that someone or something will fill the void we feel inside? We turn to relationships, work, social media, anything to avoid the silence of being alone. But that kind of fulfillment is temporary. It's like drinking salty water when you're thirsty. It never truly satisfies. Now, I'm not saying that being around others or seeking connections is bad. Far from it. We are social beings and relationships are a beautiful part of life. But I want to challenge you to consider how much of your happiness depends on those external connections. And what happens when those connections aren't there, when the phone stops ringing, when the party ends, when you're left with nothing but your own thoughts. Can you be it? The real challenge and the real opportunity lies in learning to find that peace in solitude. Because when you can be alone and feel content, when you can sit with yourself without feeling restless or anxious, that's when you begin to discover your true power. You start to realize that you don't need the approval or the attention of others to feel whole. This is what I want to talk about today. Learning to enjoy your own company, not as a last resort or something to endure, but as a source of strength, clarity, and yes, even joy. It's not about isolation or cutting yourself off from the world. It's about understanding that the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for every other relationship in you. If you can learn to be your own best company, you'll find that you're never truly alone. And in that space, free from distraction, you might just discover the peace and happiness you've been searching for all along. We live in a world that never stops. Think about it. Our lives are filled with distractions. There's always something demanding our attention, whether it's social media, work emails, the latest TV series, or a never-ending list of things to do. It's almost as if we become uncomfortable with the idea of being still, of being quiet, of being alone. And in all this noise, we forget to ask ourselves the simple yet powerful questions. When was the last time I truly sat with myself without any distractions? I want you to take a moment and think about that. When was the last time you just sat? Not scrolling through your phone, not answering messages or planning your next task, but simply being present with yourself. What did you feel? Did it feel uncomfortable? Did it make you want to reach for your phone or turn on the TV just to escape that silence? For many of us, being alone with our thoughts feels unnatural. We're so used to filling every moment with some kind of distraction that when we finally do have a moment of stillness, it can feel almost threatening. But why? Why is it that being alone, with nothing to distract us, brings up such... The truth is, we've conditioned ourselves to believe that distractions are a way to avoid unpleasant feelings. When we're constantly busy, we don't have to face our worries, our insecurities, or even our deepest desires. We bury them under layers of distractions, thinking that if we stay occupied, we won't have to deal with them. But the reality is, avoiding solitude only makes things worse. It leads to stress, anxiety, and a feeling that something is always missing. And when we don't spend time with ourselves, we lose touch with who we really are. We become so focused on the external world, on what others think of us, on how we measure up, that we forget to listen to our own inner voice. I want you to consider that. What if the discomfort we feel when we're alone isn't actually about being alone at all? What if it's more about the way we've been trained to view solitude? From a young age, many of us are taught that being alone is something to avoid. We're told that it's better to be surrounded by people, to always be connected. And so we grow up associating solitude with loneliness, with boredom, with a lack of purpose. But here's the thing. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness, of wanting connection but not having it. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of being alone by choice, a state that can bring peace, clarity, and even creativity. The problem isn't being alone. The problem is how we perceive it. Now, let's compare that to solitude. Solitude is different. Solitude is a state of being alone, yes, but it's not about disconnection or emptiness. It's about being with yourself, fully present, and finding peace in that. Solitude is about stillness, not lack. It's about quiet, not isolation. When you're in solitude, you aren't longing for someone to fill a void. You're content in your own company. We've been conditioned to fear solitude. We equate it with being lonely or feeling unwanted. Think about how often we hear things like, "Don't be alone on a Friday night," or "You should always have people around you." Society sends us this message that being alone means something is wrong. But I'm here to tell you that solitude is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth you can ever have. And here's something powerful to remember. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop needing others to complete you. That's emotional independence. You begin to realize that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's opinion, and your happiness isn't tied to external circumstances. You can be alone and still feel whole, fulfilled, and at peace. Let me leave you with this thought. The greatest approval you can ever receive is your own. When you validate yourself, when you enjoy your own company, you unlock a freedom and a power that no one else can give you. And from that place of inner strength, you can live a life that's true to who you are, without needing anyone else's approval to feel complete. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What are the things that bring you joy? What lights you up inside? Have you lost touch with those passions you see in the hustle and noise of daily life? It's easy to push aside the things that truly make us happy. We get caught up in obligations, responsibilities, and the expectations of others, and somewhere along the way, we forget about the things that make us feel alive. Maybe there was a time when you had hobbies or interests that filled you with excitement, things you did purely because they brought you joy. But over time, life got busy, and you told yourself that those things weren't as important. You told yourself you'd get back to them someday. And here we are. Years have passed, and that someday still hasn't come. What if you gave yourself permission right now to rediscover those things that bring you joy? What if, in the time you spend alone, you use that space to reconnect with your passions and interests, the things that are uniquely yours? One of the most beautiful gifts that alone time offers is the opportunity to explore what truly makes your heart sing. When you're alone, without distractions, without anyone else's opinions influencing you, you can start to remember what it feels like to do something just because it makes you happy. Not because it's productive, not because it's expected of you, but simply because it brings you joy. Think back to when you were a child. Children don't worry about whether their hobbies are practical or useful. They don't care if their interests seem silly to others. They do things because they're fun, because they're exciting, because they make them feel good. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we lose that sense of play, that freedom to enjoy something for the simple pleasure of it. But here's the truth. Our kids are still there, waiting for you. They haven't gone anywhere. They've just been buried under the layers of your busy life. And now, as you spend time alone, you have the perfect opportunity to start peeling back those layers and rediscovering the things that make you feel most like yourself. You might be thinking, I don't even know what my passions are anymore. I've been so focused on other things for so long, I wouldn't even know where to start. And that's okay. That's completely normal. But here's the exciting part. Now you get to experiment. Now you get to try new things, explore different interests, and see what lights you up. Maybe you've always wanted to try painting, or writing, or learning a musical instrument. Maybe you used to love dancing, or hiking, or cooking new recipes. Or maybe there's something entirely new that you've never tried before but have always been curious about. Whatever it is, Give yourself permission to explore it without any expectations. Remember, this isn't about being good at something. It's not about achieving anything. It's simply about finding joy in the act of doing it. When you spend time alone, you don't have anyone else's opinions or judgments clouding your mind. You're free to try things without worrying about what anyone else thinks. And in that freedom, you can rediscover parts of yourself that you may have forgotten or... Let me share a story with you. There was a man I once knew, a successful businessman who had spent years building his career. He was always busy, always on the go, and he was good at what he did. But one day he realized that despite all his success, something was missing. He couldn't remember the last time he did something just for fun. He couldn't remember the last time he felt real joy. So he decided to take some time for himself. He started spending quiet mornings alone, just reflecting on his life. And one day he remembered how much he used to love photography. When he was younger, he would spend hours taking pictures, capturing the beauty he saw in the world. But over time, he had put his camera away, telling himself that he was too busy, that there were more important things to focus on. But in those quiet moments, alone with his thoughts, he realized that photography had brought him a sense of peace and happiness that he hadn't felt in years. So he picked up his camera again just to see how it felt, and something incredible happened. He rediscovered his passion. It wasn't about becoming a professional photographer. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about finding joy in something that was just for him. And that's the point. When you spend time alone, you give yourself the chance to reconnect with the things that are just for you. Your passions, your interests, your joys, they don't have to make sense to anyone else. They don't have to be productive or lead to something bigger. They just have to make you happy. And that in itself is enough. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I don't have time for that. I have responsibilities. I have obligations. I can't just focus on myself. And I understand that. We all have busy lives, and it can feel selfish to take time for yourself. But I'll tell you something important. Taking time to reconnect with your passions isn't selfish. It's necessary. When you're doing something that brings you joy, you're filling your own cup. And when your cup is full, you have so much more to give to the people around you. You're more present, more engaged, and more alive. So if you're worried about taking time for yourself, remember this, like by nurturing your own joy, you're actually bringing more light and energy into every part of your life. So I encourage you to start experimenting. Give yourself the space to try new things, to rediscover old hobbies, to explore the interests that make you feel alive. And don't worry about whether you're good at them or not. This is about finding joy, not perfection. Once you reconnect with your passions, a powerful transformation takes place. You start to feel more in tune with who you are. You start to experience a sense of fulfillment that comes from within rather than from external sources. And that sense of fulfillment spills over into every other area of your life. You become more confident in your decisions, more grounded in your sense of self, and more at peace with the world around you. Because when you're in touch with your own joy, you stop looking for it in places where it doesn't exist. You stop waiting for someone else to make you happy. And you realize that the happiness you've been searching for has been inside you all along. When was the last time you felt truly at peace, without any external pressures weighing down on you? Picture that moment. Maybe it was a quiet afternoon, perhaps sitting by a window, watching the world go by, or even lying on the grass, staring at the clouds. In that moment of solitude, everything felt right, didn't it? There was a stillness, a clarity, a sense of being at one with yourself and the universe. But in our busy lives, how often do we allow ourselves to experience that kind of peace? How often do we carve out moments of true solitude? You see, many of us are constantly bombarded by the noise of daily life. Social media notifications, phone calls, meetings, and the endless stream of information that demands our attention. In all this chaos, we forget to give ourselves the space to just be. Solitude is not just a void to be filled. It's an opportunity for profound growth. Research shows that spending time alone can significantly enhance creativity, problem-solving abilities, and emotional clarity. Yeah, scientists have proven that when we step away from distractions and allow our minds to wander, We unlock pathways to innovative ideas and solutions that we might have never considered in a crowded room. Think of the great thinkers, artists, and visionaries throughout history. Many of them actively sought solitude. Albert Einstein would often retreat to a quiet space to think through complex problems. He knew that the answers he sought could not be found amidst the chaos of others' voices. Artists like Vincent van Gogh and Georgia O'Keeffe created their most celebrated works during periods of solitude, drawing inspiration from their inner landscape. Even modern innovators, like Steve Jobs, recognized the power of solitude. Jobs famously took long walks by himself, using that time to reflect and create. He understood that being alone didn't mean being lonely. It meant accessing a deeper part of oneself that often gets drowned out in the noise of the world. When we allow ourselves this time, we can tap into creativity in ways we never thought possible. Imagine sitting quietly with a notebook, letting your thoughts flow without judgment. Suddenly, ideas begin to emerge. You might find solutions to problems that have been nagging at you. You might remember old dreams that have been buried under the weight of life's responsibilities. And then there's the emotional clarity that solitude brings. When we are alone, we can connect with our feelings, sift through our thoughts, and gain a better understanding of ourselves. It's in these moments that we can ask ourselves the tough questions. What do I truly want? What am I feeling? What do I need to let go of? When we are surrounded by others, it's easy to overlook our own needs and desires. Solitude gives us permission to explore these thoughts without distractions. I want to share a personal story. There was a time in my life when I felt lost amidst my responsibilities. I was busy, constantly surrounded by people and noise, but I felt a profound emptiness. So I decided to spend a few days alone at a small cabin in the woods. At first, I felt the urge to fill the silence with noise, music, podcasts, anything to drown out the thoughts. But gradually, as the days passed, I learned to embrace the quiet. It was there, surrounded by nature, that I started to feel a sense of peace wash over me. I picked up my journal and began to write. Ideas flowed freely, and for the first time in a long while, I felt clarity about my purpose and my passion. I left that cabin renewed, inspired, and grateful for the experience of solitude. Now, I'm not saying solitude is always easy. Initially, it can feel uncomfortable. You might wrestle with thoughts and feelings you've been avoiding. But that's where the real magic happens. It's in facing those uncomfortable feelings and listening to that inner voice that we find strength and resilience. So how can you begin to cultivate this peace and clarity in your own life? Start small. Set aside a few minutes each day for solitude. It could be as simple as sitting quietly in your favorite chair, going for a walk in nature, or even meditate. Allow your thoughts to flow freely. Don't judge or analyze them. Just observe. Over time, you'll find that this practice becomes more comfortable, more natural. And remember, solitude isn't just about creativity or peace. There's a deeper change that happens when we truly learn to enjoy our own company. When you embrace solitude, you start to become your own best friend. You learn to trust yourself, to appreciate your own thoughts and feelings, and to celebrate your own achievements, no matter how small. As you begin to cultivate this relationship with yourself, you'll notice that your interactions with others begin to change as well. You'll find that you're less dependent on external validation and more grounded in your own sense of worth. You'll become more confident, more authentic, and more open to genuine connections with others. So I invite you to embrace solitude as a powerful tool for personal growth. Allow yourself the gift of time alone. Create space for creativity, clarity, and peace to flourish in your life. And as you do, watch as you transform into a more empowered and joyful version of yourself. Let's take a moment to reflect on something important. What parts of yourself do you hide when you're around others? What fears do you carry with you into those crowded rooms or social gatherings? Think about it. Each of us has those little pieces of ourselves that we sometimes feel the need to conceal. Our insecurities, our quirks, our true thoughts and feelings. Why do we do this? Is it because we fear judgment? Or perhaps we fear rejection? In our interactions, we often put on masks, showing only the version of ourselves that we believe is acceptable to others. We might feel pressure to conform to social expectations or to fit into certain molds. But when the noise fades and we find ourselves in solitude, we come face to face with the raw, unfiltered parts of who we are. This can be both liberating and intimidating. The beauty of spending time alone is that it creates a safe space to confront those fears and insecurities head on. In solitude, you don't have anyone else's opinions shaping your thoughts. There's no one to judge or evaluate your feelings. This is an opportunity to explore the parts of yourself that you've tucked away, the aspects that yearn for acknowledgement and acceptance. Let me share a story with you. A dear friend of mine struggled with anxiety. He often felt overwhelmed in social situations and found himself playing small to avoid the discomfort. He would suppress his true thoughts and feelings, hiding behind a facade of what he thought people wanted to see. But when he finally took time for himself, some quiet evenings at home with just his thoughts, he began to confront his fears. In those quiet moments, he started journaling about his feelings. He wrote about his anxieties, his dreams, and even the moments when he felt ashamed or inadequate. Slowly, he began to understand that these fears were not as powerful as they seemed. He learned that those parts of himself he had hidden were valid and worthy of love and acceptance. Facing his fears in the safety of solitude allowed him to peel back the layers of self-doubt. He realized that many of the judgments he feared from others were simply reflections of his own insecurities. With each page he filled, he found strength and clarity. Eventually, he felt empowered to share more of his true self with others, and that opened the door to deeper, more meaningful connections. You see, when we face our insecurities in solitude, we give ourselves the chance to understand and embrace them. We can acknowledge our fears without the pressure of judgment, allowing us to work through them at our own pace. This process is not always easy. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. But I promise you, it's worth it. So how do you begin to face these insecurities? Start by creating a space for yourself, whether it's a cozy corner in your home, a favorite park bench, or anywhere you feel comfortable. Set aside some time each day to sit quietly and reflect. You might start by asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I hiding? Allow those questions to linger in your mind. Write down whatever comes to you, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. As you reflect, you might uncover fears that have been lurking in the shadows for too long. Maybe you fear failure or feel unworthy of love and acceptance. Maybe you worry that others will see you as inadequate. These feelings are more common than you think. They're part of being human. And the more you acknowledge them, the less power they will hold over you. As you begin to face your insecurities, you'll find something remarkable waiting for you on the other side. You'll discover a deeper sense of self-acceptance and self-love. You'll learn that it's okay to be imperfect, that it's okay to show up as your authentic self, flaws and all. And once you embrace this truth, a beautiful shift occurs. You start to experience freedom, not just in solitude, but in your relationships with others as well. Imagine walking into a room filled with people, feeling confident enough to share your thoughts and feelings openly. You no longer feel the need to hide. Instead, you shine brightly, attracting those who appreciate you for who you truly are. You build connections based on authenticity, and those relationships become richer and more. And here's the key: the more you embrace your true self without fear, the more you empower others to do the same. When you're honest about your struggles, you give permission for others to be vulnerable too. This creates a ripple effect, fostering a culture of acceptance and understanding. So I encourage you to take that leap. Spend time in solitude, not just to escape the world, but to truly discover yourself. Allow yourself to confront your fears and insecurities. Embrace your true self without fear of judgment. When you do, you'll unlock a profound sense of freedom that enriches not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Remember, the journey to self-acceptance is ongoing. It's a process that requires patience and compassion. So be gentle with yourself as you navigate this path. You're not alone in this struggle, And each step you take brings you closer to the beautiful, authentic person you were always meant to be. How often do you take a moment to express love or kindness toward yourself? Think about that for a second. Many of us are quick to extend compassion and understanding to others, but when it comes to ourselves, we can be our own harshest critics. We might wake up in the morning and focus on our flaws, reminding ourselves of the mistakes we made yesterday. Instead of celebrating our strengths and accomplishments, we often dwell on what we perceive to be shortcomings. But what if we shifted our focus? What if we learned to enjoy our own company, not just as a practice, but as a pathway to self-love? When we spend time alone, we have the unique opportunity to connect with ourselves on a deeper level. This time of solitude can serve as a nurturing space, allowing us to cultivate a loving relationship with ourselves. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this point. There was a period in my life when I was caught up in the hustle and bustle, constantly chasing goals and achievements. I found myself feeling overwhelmed and dissatisfied despite the external successes I had attained. It was during this time that I realized I had neglected an essential aspect of my well-being: self-love. So, I decided to dedicate time to being alone, not as a form of escape, but as a conscious choice to nurture myself. In those moments of solitude, I began to practice positive self-talk. Instead of focusing on what I thought I was lacking, I started acknowledging my strengths, my values, and the unique qualities that make me who I am. I would look in the mirror and say, "You are enough." This simple affirmation changed my outlook. It reminded me that I didn't need to seek validation from others. I was worthy of love and acceptance just as I was. It's easy to forget that self-compassion is a practice. So often, we think that self-love should come naturally, but it takes intention and effort. One way to cultivate this compassion is through mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's about being present in the moment, acknowledging our experiences as they are, and treating ourselves with kindness. The next time you catch yourself being critical or unkind to yourself, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, would I say this to a friend? More often than not, the answer is no. We tend to be far gentler and more forgiving toward others than we are to ourselves. This awareness is the first step toward transforming how we speak to ourselves. Consider incorporating a daily practice of gratitude into your routine. Each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you appreciate about yourself. Maybe it's your ability to listen to others, your sense of humor, or your dedication to learning. By focusing on the positive aspects of who you are, you slowly start to shift your mindset. You begin to see that love and kindness are not just reserved for others. They're essential for your well-being, too. Additionally, engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Whether it's painting, gardening, cooking, or simply going for a walk in nature, these moments of pleasure can serve as expressions of self-love. They remind you that you deserve to enjoy life and all the beauty it has to offer. When you allow yourself to indulge in activities that light you up, you reinforce the idea that your happiness matters. And let's not forget the power of journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can be incredibly therapeutic. It's a space where you can be completely honest with yourself, expressing emotions that may be difficult to articulate verbally. As you pour your heart onto the pages, you create a record of your journey towards self-discovery and acceptance. As you cultivate self-love, you'll notice a profound transformation in how you experience the world around you. With self-love comes a new lens through which to view your life. You'll start to approach challenges with a sense of resilience, knowing that you have the inner strength to overcome obstacles. Instead of shying away from difficulties, you'll embrace them, seeing them as opportunities for growth. Moreover, self-love allows you to build healthier relationships. When you treat yourself with kindness and respect, you set the tone for how others treat you. You'll attract people who value you for who you truly are. And those relationships will flourish because they're built on a foundation of authenticity and mutual respect. Embracing self-love also helps you develop a deeper sense of empathy toward others. When you understand your own struggles and challenges, you become more compassionate toward those around you. You recognize that everyone is fighting their own battles, and this awareness fosters connections rooted in understanding and support. So I invite you to make a commitment to yourself. Start today. Take a moment to express love and kindness toward yourself, whether through positive affirmations, mindfulness practices, or acts of self-care. These small steps will lead you toward a profound shift in how you view yourself. Remember, you are worthy of love, not just from others, but from yourself. As you cultivate this relationship with yourself, you'll find that the world around you begins to change in beautiful ways. You'll feel more confident, more grounded, and more at peace. And as you move forward, carry this message with you. Loving yourself is not a destination. It's a lifelong journey. Embrace every step of the way and watch as your life unfolds in remarkable and unexpected ways. As we reflect on the journey of learning to enjoy being alone, let's take a moment to appreciate the incredible gifts that this practice can bring into our lives. When we allow ourselves the space to sit with our thoughts, we often find something transformative waiting for us. Solitude is not just an absence of noise. It's a presence of clarity, creativity, and inner. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly confident in your own skin? For many, that confidence emerges not from external validation, but from the deep understanding of who you are at your core. When you enjoy your own company, you build a solid foundation of self-assurance that no one can shake. You begin to realize that you don't need the approval of others to validate your worth. Instead, you learn to appreciate your uniqueness and embrace. This newfound independence is empowering. It allows you to stand tall in your convictions and make choices that resonate with your true self. You find the courage to pursue your passions, whether that means diving deeper into a hobby you've neglected or exploring new interests that excite you. The freedom that comes from being comfortable alone allows you to break free from the chains of societal expectations. You become the author of your own life story, choosing paths that align with your values and desires. Moreover, solitude sparks creativity in ways that you might never have imagined. When the distractions of daily life fade into the background, your mind becomes a canvas for inspiration. You might find yourself doodling ideas, writing poetry, or even starting that novel you've always dreamed of. Many great thinkers and artists throughout history have credited their most profound insights to time spent in solitude. It's in those quiet moments that the seeds of creativity take root, growing into something beautiful and impactful. Inner peace is perhaps one of the most profound rewards of learning to enjoy your own company. In our fast-paced world, where the noise and chaos can feel overwhelming, solitude offers a sanctuary for the soul. When you embrace silence, you create a space where you can hear your own thoughts, reflect on your feelings, and connect with your inner self. This practice of introspection fosters a sense of calm and serenity that permeates every aspect of your life. You may find that you handle challenges with greater ease, respond to stress with a level head, and approach relationships with a sense of groundedness. So how do we take those first steps toward appreciating our solitude? It can feel daunting, especially in a world filled with distractions. Start small. Carve out a few moments each day just for yourself. Whether it's sipping your morning coffee in silence, going for a peaceful walk, or taking a few minutes to meditate. These small acts can lay the groundwork for a more profound connection with yourself. You might discover that you enjoy these moments more than you thought possible. Consider creating a solitude ritual. This could be as simple as dedicating time each week to engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Maybe you choose to read that book you've been meaning to finish, practice a musical instrument, or explore the outdoors. The key is to prioritize these moments and approach them with an open heart and mind. As you begin to appreciate solitude, you'll find that it becomes easier to embrace the silence. Allow yourself to be present in those moments without judgment. Recognize any discomfort that arises and remind yourself that it's perfectly normal. Over time, you'll grow to find comfort and joy in these peaceful spaces. And now I want to leave you with a powerful call to actions. Make time for yourself. Embrace the silence and see what unfolds. Allow the stillness to guide you toward self-discovery, creativity, and peace. Each time you carve out that space for yourself, you're not only honoring your own needs, but also nurturing a deeper relationship with the most important person in your life. As you watch how your life begins to change, I encourage you to share this journey with others. Let your experiences inspire those around you to explore the beauty of solitude. Imagine a world where individuals are empowered to embrace their true selves, free from the constraints of comparison and expectation. By loving yourself and enjoying your own company, you contribute to a ripple effect of positivity and authenticity that can transform not only your life, but the lives of those you touch. So step forward with courage and curiosity. Discover the treasures that solitude has to offer. And remember, in every moment you spend in your own company, you are learning, growing, and evolving into the incredible person you are meant to be. Your relationship with yourself is the foundation for all other relationships. And when you nurture it, you open the door to a world filled with love, creativity, and boundless possibilities.